Saturday marks President Trump's 100th day in office, and Press Secretary Sean Spicer says it's unbelievable what he has been able to do thus far. But polling suggests his job approval is at an all-time low for any president's first 100 days. Talking Points correspondents Gilat Melamed, Shama, and Dan Prager are here to dissect the president's first 100 days, with all its successes and shortcomings. Dan, Elijah, Gilat, thanks for being here. Dan, really glad to have you back.
It's great to be back.
I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you.
Now, real quick, I just want to ask you, I'm going to ask you to grade President Trump's first 100 days, not based on what you think of his policies, but basically, has he been able to keep his promises, and how productive have these first 100 days been compared to other presidencies? Because you had Sean Spicer saying that this is the most productive 100 days since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Dan.
I'll give him a C on what he's actually done, but a B on how he's presented it. His supporters still support him strongly. His approval rating has gone down since he was elected, but he has done some things that really have shown his supporters he's on their side. There was a big loss with the whole Obamacare replacement situation. That was definitely his biggest loss to date, which is why I would say he's probably at a C, because he's probably kept as many promises as he's broken. But he's still doing a great job of showing his supporters that he is on their side, and he's still working to get to what he's trying to do.
Real quick, A through F, pick a letter.
I'm going to side with C- about a D, just because his foreign policy, he campaigned on being a non-interventionist president. This is a man that's already launched airstrikes in 2 countries and has an armada right around the Korean Peninsula. We're talking about major bellicose actions towards foreign nations.
And Gilat?
That's a good point.
I'm going to give him a C because the major things that he promised, repeal and replace Obamacare, he even said on the first day, still hasn't happened. The wall, travel ban, that went to court. The travel ban got overturned in court, and his things that he's trying to initiate are going to court, and then he's losing those court battles. So C.
Go ahead.
Now arguably since both of you mentioned Obamacare in your explanations, now arguably one of the biggest focal points for the early Trump administration was to fix healthcare, was to find a solution and a medium for which Obamacare could be overhauled. What is next for Trump's plan when it comes to healthcare? Has his political clout been diminished by Obamacare or his healthcare plan being blocked? Dan?
I think his support has been a little diminished. But as far as the will of the people, they're still behind him. A lot of them are actually kind of saying to themselves now, this plan that they were proposing was destroyed by Democrats, and it was an unpopular plan, and blame is going around. And there was enough confusion that actually it really just seems like nothing happened at all. Now, some people who are policy wonks are going to say, this was a big loss for him. He doesn't really have a plan to replace it, and he doesn't really have a plan. But eventually you will see him try again, and he's got to have to do better. If he fails another time, he's done.
And the first plan did not go through because they didn't have the support of the House Freedom Caucus. This time around, they do have the support of the House Freedom Caucus, but there's reports that moderate Republicans are not on board with this. So, that's something looking forward that's going to be very difficult. Democrats say they will not vote to pass a bill on government spending if there's a vote on Obamacare this week. But as we look at how these things are sort of progressing and how, they have a majority in the House, Senate, and the presidency, the Republicans, yet they can't get through these major legislations. Now, if we look at tax reform, obviously we don't have the details yet, but tax reform has been something that presidents have tried to do in the past. It has never been very easy. I think the easier route is just, simple tax cuts, not to work and other things. Your thoughts?
I think, to quote Paul Ryan, doing big things is hard. When we're looking at kind of these huge overhauls, people don't like getting tax cuts, but then people also like a lot of the government spending that happens. When you look at, people want roads, people want infrastructure, people want their schools to be better, but people want their taxes to be lower. And it's very hard to strike that balance. It's even harder when you're trying to kind of swing for the fences every time you swing.
When you look at the priorities that he's placed, and this can be directed to either of you, on corporate gains, on individual incomes, and dramatically diminishing how much we are collecting, what do you think he'll be able to accomplish with this new tax reform plan, and do you think it's ultimately going to help him overall?
I think right now his base of core supporters, they're still very highly in favor of him. But I think with this new tax plan, I think he's not going to lose the risk of getting the businesses, because their taxes are going to be lowered by a lot, but I think he runs the risk of losing his core base of supporters because by taking it down from 7 tax brackets to only 3, that means the middle class isn't as broken up as much. That means you have people at the lower end of the middle class spectrum and the upper end paying the same taxes, and that's ultimately going to hurt his poor supporters.
I mean, I think this is a dream for Republicans, but you can't really even judge the tax plan because where is this money coming from? If he doesn't have a plan to take this money out of somewhere, moderate Republicans are never going to go
He's talking
for
about rebuilding America. Meanwhile, he can't even collect the funds from these tax
And he
cuts.
wants this $1 trillion infrastructure plan. Where is
Absolutely.
that money coming from? There's not really a set plan of what to do after these plans.
And speaking of money, President Trump really wants to boost military spending. Elijah, you mentioned Syria earlier. Now, with Syria and North Korea, this sort of increasing in military hostility, what do you think moving forward the Trump plan is?
I think the Trump plan is really kind of speak loudly but also carry a big stick. It's kind of that almost Teddy Roosevelt-ish, but really brash, very bellicose. It's almost a try me approach. He's shown that with the Moab, he's shown with the 51 Tomahawks, he's shown that we're going to use these weapons that we've had that we've kind of maybe stayed away from using before. He's showing that, listen, if you hit us, we're going to hit you back with everything we got and then some. So I think it's very much a kind of a defense mechanism in showing how strong the American military is while trying not to use it.
Interesting.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you all for being here.